When my father passed away in 2007, he blessed me to take over his position. That was a very difficult, very hard time for sure. You sort of felt at that time on the personal level where to place yourself. The greatest man, my father, my love, had passed away. So it was very hard because we still had to continue on to work. We couldn't have much time off. It was very difficult because there was a great hole. He was the magic.
Unfortunately, the company stagnated. It stagnated for a few reasons. One is, I spent a lot of time with Bob by the side of his bed in his dying weeks, as obviously his family did. And he told Lorna not to take on any more debt and to get rid of the debt we've got. And Lorna and Michelle have gone out of their way every minute of their working life trying to do what Bob wanted to achieve his vision. But when she couldn't take on any more debt, that made it very hard for her.
Do you think the company would still be at the same expansion rate if Bob was still here?
Do I think it would still be at the same expansion rate? I question that actually on a daily basis. I'm torn because there's an article that I remember vividly where my grandfather was interviewed at the Academy Cinema in front of a Looney Tunes poster, and it was in the Advertiser, and he said that he doesn't see us expanding and purchasing any more cinemas because of the way that he could see the film industry was heading, and unfortunately he predicted that would be right, that the film industry would massively change. But then my mum and Nana made the decision in the last couple of years to purchase our cinema in Mildura. So I'm not sure if Greta would have expanded into the country.
For the company, I'm proud of, probably in most recent history, our acquisition of Mildura. I'm a big one for business growth and acquisition in particular, and I feel like that was a really clever decision to find a cinema that is profitable, that has a good patronage, and I think that is definitely now one of the strengths of Wallis Cinemas.
As a company, what our strengths are, I would say that it's our customer service, that we have always prided ourselves on that, and still to today, that we're very much there for our customer, because we install to our managers, our front of house and our team members that every time that person comes through our door, that could be for their very first time. So every customer needs to be treated very special, and I think we've always given our 100% to our customers to make sure and ensure that their experience with us is a memorable one.
The good thing about Wallis Cinemas is that we are local, and we therefore can support local businesses and local staff as well. And I think one of the strengths of Wallis is that we are following the staff journey as well, and we are helping staff grow.
The strength easily would be family values. I'd say that it's our customer service, our family values. It's going to the movies. It's not just, it's an escapism. It's 2 hours that you can sit with all your troubles, especially with what's going on in the world today. You can go in there and for 2 hours just let it all go and just be in another place, in another environment, and just truly enjoy yourself. And we make that experience. We made that experience worthwhile with the greeting you get from our staff at the front counter, to the ushers, to the management. It's truly a family-run business, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I think being family-owned allows us to work with individual staff, but also to allow for a targeted growth strategy. We're small enough to care about individual sites. We're small enough to care that this chair has a tear in it, for example. We will follow that up. And I think the family-owned mentality is a great positive for us because it means that we care about the smaller things. We can still focus on the big things, but we do care about the fine-tuning of how our cinemas run. The argument about being family-owned versus being corporate-owned is that the other side of the coin is that, you know, we have the potential to let our emotions get the better of us. We are small enough that we care, but that means sometimes we can care too much about certain aspects of the business, and that makes us make emotional choices. That is the downside of any emotionally run business.
How did it feel when some of your original cinemas had to fold?
Always very much it's part of your heart. That's something that was with my grandfather or my father. So naturally it does take a fair bit out of you on the emotion, because that's part of you that when you've lived and breathed, you've taken a piece out of your heart for that. But unfortunately, it's because of the way times have changed. The academy, particularly when we closed that, it was such a large complex to be able to upgrade. It was just an enormous investment. When the Chelsea Cinema closed, that was very much another one that we had. I mean, we purchased that in 1977. That closed with the film called The Artist. And you just left there thinking, my goodness, that this is it. When Glenelg Cinema closed back in February in 2009, that was very much another place to go in its heyday. The Cinema 1, that held over 400 seats. Then you had Cinema 2, 3. Actually, with Glenelg Cinema, we were the very first in the cinema chain upstairs to have a bar and smoking. So that was something that was very much the place to go. So that was very much, again, a very sad moment for the Wallis family. But over time, you could see the decline, that it wasn't getting supported, and you couldn't continue on. It wasn't viable.
Could you just speak a bit about your brother Daryl and his involvement in the company?
My dear brother Daryl, with his involvement in the company. Now, Daryl was very different to me, very different personality, very a lot stronger, but very, very, very intelligent. He served his time at the academy as one of our managers. He was very well liked, very well respected. The thing that I got annoyed about Daryl was that he could never use a calculator. So when it came to balancing every night, especially with all the cash and all our vouchers, our cine savers, not once did he ever use the calculator, and he was always accurate with his maths. So that's something that did very much annoy me. He also was a manager down at Glenelg too. He was there for a little while, and also he did some time with us at head office in the advertising department too, which he did very well with. And then it was time for Daryl, that he wanted to make that decision to leave the company, which was fine, and he did his own thing in his walk of life, and but never away from me. I never lost my love for him. My love was always there. And unfortunately, my brother passed away in 2015. And I do believe that Daryl's spirit, again, is very much upon with us.
The rebrand was a big change for the company. It was, the first reset, the second reset has been COVID-19. I think it was about, and I'm sure Mum would say the same thing, honouring the past and embracing the tomorrows. And the colours of the logo actually is your previous design.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So the colours that we've grabbed is actually from because it used to be Wallis Drive-In Theatres, then to Wallis Cinemas, and now Wallis is Cinema. And the colours that we grabbed from Wallis Cinemas. So it's still there, but just with a bit of a twist. And it's interesting when you see Wallis, when you've got the eye slightly on the tilt, just for that to stand out, because it's sort of like we're turning for the future, we're turning for the new times.
It's a new chapter.
It's a new chapter for the Wallis Group. It was quite interesting, the whole journey with all that. I thought I was pretty brave, very bold, very courageous of putting my neck out for that, but it was time. It felt that it was a great opportunity for us to give ourselves sort of a new relift or Botox or whatever you like to call it, inject ourselves with something with being a little bit more modern. And Wallis is, in what that refers to, Wallis is family, Wallis is docos, Wallis is comedy, Wallis is romance, Wallis is South Australia, Wallis is entertainment.
Endless possibilities.
And hospitality, because we are in hospitality as well, so Wallis is dining. So it was, and then once we got it out there, then eventually the understanding from all of the company that then sort of they have your aha moment, and then they finally got it.
And to see it being rolled out, not only just from seeing the logo on a piece of paper, but rolled out to our popcorn boxes, our stationery, our uniforms, and seeing the staff wearing the new branding and the new uniform to match. It was quite a journey to get from the concept to the final product, and now, coming up to a year being launched. Towards the end of this year will be 1 year of our new branding, and just the change that it's made. It's been incredible, very chic, very sophistication.
Yes,
making us more sophisticated than we are.
Yeah.
Some of the major changes we did at Wallis's, and you'd find this hard to believe that we were the first in Australia. We had Mad Max 2 at the Academy coming, and in those days the city theatres ran 11 to 5 and 8. And they had featurettes before the film and an intermission and then back into the movie. Well, the featurette they had was a bicycle tour of Tasmania. And I went into Huey and Bob and I said, I can assure you that the people I want to see at Mad Max 2 couldn't give us stuff about Tasmania and riding a bike. And they said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to drop the short and I want to run 6 sessions instead of 4. And they said, okay. Well, Mr. Nicholson, the operating officers, came in and he said, you're going to let him stuff up this company, it's all going to go broke, because people won't buy it from the candy bar, no interval. Anyway, Huey just said, if he wants to do it, let him try it. Well, the theatre in Perth that ran Mad Max 2, the town, used to take the same money as the Academy. So on the first week of Mad Max 2, they took 42,000, the Academy took 76. Not another word was ever said. And by time, we then trained people to buy at the candy bar before they went in. So it all changed. We also changed the suburbs. Suburban theatres used to run double features sub-run. The films went into the city and then they went to the suburbs 8 weeks later. John Harvey, the friend who lived at Pine Point, who was at that stage then working for Wallis as program manager, he and I went to Sydney to see the managing director of United International Pictures, to try to encourage them to let us have films in the suburbs at the same time as the city. Because Greater Union and Hoyts wouldn't like that because they had the city theatres. Anyway, we convinced them, and that changed the whole dynamics of suburban theatres, all from Wallis Theatres Adelaide.
With regards to trends, I think we have had to catch up definitely. We have fallen behind to some extent in recent years, but we are on the path to growth again now. For example, we see a lot of cinemas now that are offering almost like a plane experience. And that plane experience, now when you book a flight, you choose whether you're going to be economy or whether you're going to go premium or whether you're going to go business class. And I think the cinema model is lending itself to that same kind of ability to upgrade. And we see it with Gold Class, obviously, and we see it with Hoyt's Lux. And I think that's the area that now that trend that we now need to work towards. And we've started that trend already by looking at our sound offerings, by starting to look at loyalty clubs, and by upgrading our software. So with regards to trends in technology, we are definitely taking steps ahead.
Quake sound is that too big a plug for me? So I'm not sure. Yeah.
Enjoy this movie in Quake sound. Exclusive to Wallis Cinemas.
We were fortunate enough to put in at Mitcham Cinema 1 the first Quake sound system, which is effectively a 7.1 sound system that really amplifies the surrounds and the low frequencies that you hear with rumbling of a movie or an action movie. But it's not just boom, boom, it's clarity, that speech that is more defined, that you can hear from coming from the front.
We've had the luxury of going nuts. So we went up beyond, and this system will deliver everything plus another 6 dB, if you like. It'll go more than necessary.
It's an immersive experience. It's just not noise, it's clarity. It's broken up through multiple channels over multiple speakers, so people have a fully immersive experience when they're here. And if we don't keep taking on board these innovations, what separates us from people watching their theatre at home?
What has it been like working with different generations of the Wallis family?
Well, they all bring their different persona into it. You know, some are a little bit more liberal about how they want to spend money on some of the elements in the cinema, like seating and projection stuff and all that sort of stuff. And they've obviously got to run a business. So they're all a bit different. They all have their own personalities. But they all have a commonality, is that they want to deliver the best. And their technical prowess is maintaining the equipment and keeping the sound going and all that sort of stuff has always been very good. So we like working with these guys because it's good for us. It's an icon name, a bit like Tricks really, and Coopers and Penfolds and Balfours, Bigfords, Crows.
To give back to the community on a regular basis, prior to the COVID-19 implications, we'd always support local football clubs, local school events, and we donate vouchers and singing savers to those type of events.
We've always been encouraged to make sure that we reach out to local businesses, because I suppose the network of having ties to the community does hold you in good stead, especially in times of crisis. As of right now, our Facebook page is peppered with those sorts of things from locals who actually do want to support the local cinema, and it certainly helps that we're South Australian owned, South Australian run. So I think when you're doing it at the time, sometimes it's hard to quantify because there's more in it for the smaller restaurant than there is for us. Let's face it, if we do a movie dinner deal or something like that, they're getting lots more than what we're going to get out of it. For us, it's just a service. But I think we can see in the long term, in the long run, we're not owned by a multinational foreign company. We're owned by the Wallis family. We're run by the Wallis family. And I think people do respect that, and they're going to support that, especially, like I said, in times of crisis.
I think we've supported local businesses or the local film industry extremely well. We had the premiere of the new Stormboy movie here last year. Did a lot of work with the Australian Film Corporation, the film festivals we've had over the years. We have a lot of documentaries or young filmmakers show their wares at our locations, especially at Mitcham. We've had numerous Australian film premieres here. We only had Brian Brown here about 6 months ago. Jack Thompson. I could list off a whole lot of Australian actors that we've had through our venues to come and screen and push Australian product, because sadly Australian films because of their budget, I'm guessing it's not as high as a US blockbuster film. So they're working on a limited budget, so limited promotional opportunities. So we do the very best we can and push that content, especially South Australian content. And there's some great filmmakers here in South Australia. We had a couple working with us here that have gone on and moved interstate and producing fantastic short documentaries that are being filmed over in the Cairns Short Film Festival. So I think we're doing a really good job helping the industry.
We certainly have got a very keen interest that I feel that we should be supporting our local and Australia films.
Not all films make a profit, but you have to try to make your theatre interesting to as broader audience as you can. And even though some of the operas and the National Theatre Live that we have, the remastered masterpieces, you've got to do a lot of these things just because the big films you're talking about are what we call the popcorn movies. They're where we make our money, and we make our money from selling popcorn and drinks and ice creams. Because when you pay 55% film hire, there's got 45% left to pay wages, insurance, electricity, and everything like that. You got to sell popcorn.
We do, as an organisation, we look after about 100 screens around Australia. So these are independent country cinemas. We do their programming for them. So that's how we got on to Mildura. But there could be a possibility that we may look into further expansion into some well-known country town cinemas.
I can be like that song, where I've been. I've been everywhere, man. Wagga, Tamworth, Orange, Griffith in New South Wales, Mildura, which we now own, Wallis now own, Echuca, Wangaratta, Mansfield, Benalla and Daylesford in Victoria, and Katherine up in Northern Territory, and others. We did do Devonport until it got sold and Reading took over in Tasmania, and in South Australia, Port Lincoln, Port Augusta, Whyalla, Semaphore and Mount Gambier.